Hello everyone and welcome back to another Batman Miniature Game 3rd edition Battle Report, and today the Scarecrow with a 350 rep crew is going up against the League of Assassins. So it's the third showing for Scarecrow's crew on the table, I think. On the layout you can see before you, but let's go look at the specifics before getting started. So here is the Scarecrow crew this time. 3 of them are real, 1 of them is intel support, and the rest are figments of your imagination. It's basically the core box minus Hugo Strange with the actual Scarecrow leader inserted. And upgrade wise, Dr. Fritawa has working in advance and intense fear, meaning that a fear card is going to start somewhere in the objective deck, and the terror effect applies just before you finish setting up the game, so the League of Assassins will be down 1 objective card. Well, technically 2 because the other one gets discarded, but that's just for the turn. Other than that, the Nightmares themselves have a few upgrades. The Fear Beast, right at the back here, the big one, has Fear Invigoration. Nightmare of Insignificance, which is the one with the long hands at the back there, has Fear Dampening. Yes, I am looking at the app to remind myself. Nightmare of Fear, which is over... Nightmare of Fear is the Scarecrow one, rather. Has Terrible Visage, and Terror Invigoration is also on the rage-looking one over there, the Nightmare of Anger. So we'll see how they do, and that is their colour of Audacity marker right there. And it's a girls get it done type list for the league, being led by Talia Al Ghul. Sidekick is, what's her name again? I've forgotten it. It's Cheshire. That's it. The Poison Lady, and of course Lady Shiva. And they're bringing along the 2 bow wielding League Acolytes, which is League Acolyte 3 and 4, I believe. Yep. And also Assassin 2 and 3, one of which has a poison saber, one of them just has a normal saber. Upgrades wise, Assassin 2 has a loyalty tattoo. League Acolyte 3, which is the one with bird support over there, has an extra arrow and was trained in the shadows to give him hidden, so he'll be starting somewhere. Talia has the Pure Lazarus upgrade, so she has regeneration, and I think that's it. Oh wait, no, the other bow Acolyte also has an extra arrow. They remembered to bring the extra arrows today, and they'll be in the red and black Audacity markers. So we are all set up and good to go. The Scarecrow crew is deployed on the left side of your screen, the League of Assassins are on your right. Scarecrow's crew will be taking first activation. There is only 4 of them on the table to start with, though the Nightmares have to come in from suspect marker placements. They can have Audacity given to them, but they have not, so everyone on the board has it for their crew. But first we'll cover cards in play for Phase 1, Phase 2. There's 2 being played, both of them by the League. They are playing their Die Hard on Cheshire, which is basically a given it's going to score, and they're playing from the shadows. Right here, target an enemy model. If that model is the first model you remove as a casualty, score this card. The thin, lanky asylum worker, this guy here, has been the one selected to die first. The League, Lady Shiva's got Audacity, she's next to the 2 Assassins. He is the one who had hidden. He is just outside of 12 inches of where Lady Fritawa spawned. He's got Audacity. He's the one where he can see anything within 18 inches if he uses a special action, hence having Audacity. Then we have the rest of them over here, Cheshire, next to the boss, and then also the other Acolyte with the bow, and the latter 2 having the Audacity markers. As I said, for Scarecrow's crew, they all have Audacity, the ones on the table at least, but we can just quickly show you where they all are. The stout one is there. Scarecrow has undercover, so he is slightly out of deployment. He is next to a lamp, but there's only 2 bows to worry about. Well, and maybe some throwing knives in the League crew, so no risk of gunshots. So with that, we will jump into Battle Round 1. There is already 1 terror card because of the upgrades bought, and 1 fear card in the deck. The man himself, Scarecrow, got the game started moving up using not even his full movement thanks to being on that horse, up behind the cover there and putting down a suspect marker, meaning his induction passive kicks in that both he and Dr. Fright have, so that if he places, well, once per turn, if he places a suspect marker or inflicts scared, I think, he adds a card to the fear pile, so, or to the objective deck rather. So he has done that. He is doing nothing else with his turn because there isn't really anything he could do. Well, actually, if he'd inflicted scared, he could have done something. But he did put into play Test Patience, which is one of Scarecrow's cards. Each time a friendly model with the Nightmare trait scores at least 1 successful hit, place 1 marker on this card, and you score it when there's 5. So it just stays in play. There's only 1 allowed in play, which is what the limited keyword means. And it will just tick up. It stays between rounds. The bow using League Acolyte with the Falcon activated, but didn't opt to shoot at Scarecrow, which you might regret in the long run, but there was a chance to instantly score, so he went for it. He moved up, but he is behind cover there, so it is actually obscuring from much further away. Put down a suspect marker and met the scoring criteria for under their noses. A friendly model places a suspect marker within 4 inches of an enemy suspect marker. As the crow flies, there's the enemy one right there. So that scores for an easy 2, putting the league on the board. For the Scarecrow crew's second activation, the Fear Beast appeared off of the back of the suspect marker Scarecrow put down, and it was then moved 4 inches by the league further towards their lines right there. Just a quick reminder about how the nightmares work. They have a 4-inch action radius, so they can attack at range even though they're using close combat. If attacking or defending, you go by the opponent's willpower halved rounding down, which is what helps keep them alive because they only have like a few health. Although the Fear Beast is the strongest of the lot. And speaking of which, he took some swings at the Acolyte. Strength I got through, and 1 extra got through. He was pretty easy to block against, even if you have reduced defense dice, because he's only attack strength 3. But 2 hits got through for 2 blood, 2 stun. More importantly though, he has the terror effect, so there's now 2 cards in the terror effect. Oh, and he was rolling 1 extra die, because there was already 1 terror card from the start of the game, and he has the Terror Invigoration upgrade, or Fear Invigoration, the one that makes you roll extra dice for how many cards are in the Terror deck. Anyway, it also did True Fear, which means there is another Fear card shuffled into Scarecrow's objective deck. He also landed a hit, which puts 1 on Test Patience. Oh, didn't he play a card as well? Hang on. Found it eventually, yes he did. He played What Do You Fear? Only one of this card can be put in play as well because of a limited keyword. When a Fear card is returned to the Fear pile, place a marker on this card and score when it has 4, for a much better 3 compared to the Test Patience worth 2. Next activation for the league was Talia al Ghul herself, although she didn't really do much. It's mostly just setting up for future turns, although she is being very brazen. She moved her 10 inches from where she was all the way next to the Fear Beast there. I guess she has never really been one to be scared of anything. So she is facing down her fears, hunting for scarecrows, but doing nothing else with her turn. The Nightmare of Insignificance has joined the table, spawning off the back of that suspect marker, which has once again been moved. It just got moved against the building there. This is the only Nightmare with a ranged attack, medium range, mechanical. On a crit it would have done True Fear, but that didn't happen this time. And he shot at Assassin 1 or 2, whichever one that one is. The one with throwing knives. I thought one of them was poisoned and one of them wasn't. The difference between them is one has throwing knives, the one that got hit, and the other one doesn't. So, only got 1 hit through for 1 stun, but we're going to use the pumpkin markers here to denote the scared effect, which he did get, so that might be relevant because he hasn't activated yet this turn. Now, once again, leaving a card over the other side of the table when it's getting put into play this turn. Oh wait, no it's not. No it's not. Not yet. That comes later. Lady Shiva activated for the league next, however, did forget to mention, with that second Nightmare scoring a successful hit. That is the second marker on Test Patience. Anyway, Lady Shiva moved up and used her tactical action to remove the suspect marker that Scarecrow had put down, so they've got none left, so they can't spawn any more Nightmares right now. And more importantly for them, and this is why Talia moved where she did, it was to score the a friendly model reveals an enemy suspect marker within 6 inches of the friendly boss. Is it worth it in the long run for 2 victory points? Well, they've scored 2 cards already and Scarecrow's scored none, so I guess? Dr. Fritawa / Dr. Fright activated, moving up 8 inches. She doesn't have much to fear because she's intel support, although she has actually taken 1 damage, now that I think about it, because of Lady Shiva removing that suspect marker. She put down a new suspect marker. She also has the induction rule, which put a fear card into the deck. Just prior to playing that, she actually played It's Okay to Be Afraid, yet another limited card, using all of those this time. When a friendly model places a suspect, target that suspect marker, score if the target is in play the next time you draw or discard a fear card. And then she immediately tried to trigger that by using her special action for Shady Dealings to discard 2 objective cards, draw 2 more, but neither of them were a fear card. The other League Acolyte, who started over by Cheshire over there, activated as the crow flies. He was just within 8 inches of where... I keep blanking on Talia's name. Where Talia was standing, so he did have a free Inspired Manipulate, which he used to put down his suspect marker after moving up his 10 inches. The pudgy Arkham assistant activated and is going off on her own a little bit. She moved up to the Batmobile there and has put down a suspect marker, doing nothing else with her turn and couldn't play any cards as a resource or otherwise. Cheshire activated, moving into action, moving 12 inches all the way over here in front of the hotel, where she put down a suspect marker. And you might notice that the league suspect markers now have markers on them, That's because multiple threats was played, because there's not going to really be an opportunity to play any more suspect markers this turn for them. Target up to 6, they had 3. Put a number on each, at the end of a turn roll a d6, and if it matches any of them, you score this for a massive 3. So they've got 2, 3 and 4 represented, so assuming all those suspect markers are still there by the end of the turn, we'll see if that scores for them. Well, the Scarecrow crew is definitely getting a foothold now as the Nightmare of Fear appears off the back of the suspect marker they played their last activation. The League then moved it into the open there. 4-inch bubble meant that action bubble that is, meant that he could do an attack action on the Acolyte over here with his devastating single blood, true terror, I think it has. It does terror on it, or crit terror, that's what it has. Didn't get a crit, so no terror, but he did have fear on it by default, so a card has been put into the fear deck. I think there's like 4 in there now, or rather, a card from the fear deck has been put in the objective deck. He also managed to do 3 damage, thanks to rolling those 2 strength dice, and also these Acolytes being 3/3 miniatures, meaning that when they're dealing with nightmares, they're counting as 1, so only rolls of 1s fail, which is really powerful. So the League just has both Assassins left, and they're both out of range to get inspired from Talia, so they're not going to be doing much. The one that got scared earlier activated, and has moved up 10 inches next to the front of the cop car here. Technically the last activation for the Scarecrow crew, although not really, because there's 2 nightmares left that can come onto the table yet. But the other Arkham Assistant, the one that had a target on his head this turn, he moved up then as a special action, used Crucial Information. You pick a suspect marker, friend or foe, within 8 and line of sight, and then move it 4 inches. He moved the one that Dr. Fright placed back here just to try and keep it safe, so that it's okay to be afraid we'll score at some point. He then also used his tactical action to put down one of his own. So the other assassin is just going to move, and then I think we'll be seeing some more nightmares spawning. And just so it's shown on film, the other assassin moved up and got into base-to-base contact with the Nightmare of Insignificance, I think this one is. Either way, getting in base-to-base with them, hopefully to deal with them next turn. And we can actually just cover where both those nightmares spawned in, because neither of them spawned in a location that put them within 4 inches to do an attack. So the Nightmare of Anger has popped in there between the scenery and the Batmobile, and then the suspect marker he spawned from was moved over there. Oh, forgot to move the other suspect marker actually. That'll be somewhere within 4 inches for the next turn. But the Demotivation Nightmare has spawned there, and that takes us to scoring for the first turn. So then the battle round 1, everyone with stun damage, which is 2 of the assassins, or yeah, the 2 of the League, and they have healed 1 stun. We've got some Scarecrow shenanigans to cover, however. They scored a Phase 4 card, The Dawn Comes, for 2. Your objective card has at least one fear card in it. Has like 4 or 5. But when drawing back up to full, it was a fear card that got drawn, which means a couple of things. Procs, What Do You Fear gets its first pip of the amount it needs to score. They get to move a suspect marker 4 inches, and It's Okay to Be Afraid scores, because that suspect marker that Dr. Fright placed was still in play at the point at which he drew/discarded a fear card. So they ended up scoring 5 right at the end of the round there. Undecided yet as to what suspect marker will be moved. For the League, From the Shadows does not score. They didn't really do much murdering, because that's the weird thing about this game. The way the current League deck works, they don't really focus on murder that much. We need to roll a die though to see if Multiple Threats scores on a 2, 3 or a 4. It does. Okay then. So that puts them quite out in front now, because Multiple Threats has scored for 3, and Die Hard scored because Cheshire was uninjured. So they also scored 5 in that phase, and they scored a couple of cards during the turn. And with that, into round 2. So at the top of battle round 2, we are all ready for a massive scrap in the middle of the table between fictional monsters and then also actual monsters, I guess, in the Assassin's case. Speaking of the League, they are going first, unless they opt to pass. Actually, yeah, I think they've got a couple of passes. Audacity-wise, Lady Shiva has Audacity, the Assassin down here does, Talia does, and up at the other end of the table there, Cheshire does as well. They're the only ones playing a objective card as well. They're playing From the Shadows again, and it is being played, once it comes into focus, it is being played on that particular nightmare. Actually, no, sorry, it's the Fear Beast. It's the Fear Beast, because he's already going after that nightmare. It is played on the Fear Beast to try and get rid of the big boy, so that there's a path to get through to Scarecrow without him being able to pass off the wounds to anyone else. Speaking of the Scarecrow crew, Dr. Fright down here has Audacity, the lanky Arkham Assistant does, Scarecrow does, and the Fear Beast himself does. So with that, into the round we go. So a very expected first activation. Talia just gone into base to base with the Fear Beast. She's willpower 8, so she was getting 4 attacks against him, and managed to get 3 hits through with her double blood sword, doing exactly enough whether it was stun damage or blood damage. It still takes him out. So the Fear Beast is gone. I forgot to mention in the setup for the turn though, but Talia has Scheming 3, so some of her suspect markers up that top end of the table are not where they were when you last saw them. That's because they were moved via Scheming. That scores the From the Shadows they put on the Fear Beast's fictional life. So it's gone, and then as a special action she used Order to shout at this assassin here and said, "Hoi, put down a suspect marker," which he has. Well, both leaders are going early this time. Scarecrow activated for his crew and started by spraying some fear gas in Talia and Lady Shiva's directions, managing to get 1 hit on each of them, and as a result proccing True Fear. Is that what it's called? I keep blanking on it. Yes, True Fear. So 2 more fear cards put into the deck, scoring a boo for a fear card is added to the deck for 2. Then he went wonders to go hide behind more nightmares that he can pass off wounds to as long as there's cards in the terror pile to be removed. And then used, what is it called? Induce Casting Fears as a special action. He selects a nightmare within range and does an attack action with them. He selected the one that did a successful attack at range 4 last time, did it again, got a hit through for 2 more blood, leaving him on 2 health remaining, and putting another card in the fear deck because he has True Fear as well. Didn't get the crit again, so no terror, but pretty effective turn all said and done. Oh, actually, this League Acolyte is on 1 health remaining. I forgot he had 3 blood on him, not 2, so he's closer to death than I thought. And I did forget to mention Test Patience now has 4 markers on it, so the next time a nightmare lands a successful hit anywhere, that will score. He has a scene down here that got into base-to-base contact with the nightmare last turn activated, just taking a swing, doing nothing else. Only the strength I got through for 2 blood with that double blood katana of his. But that's enough, because this is a 2/2 miniature, so the strength die on its own, regardless of reducing his attacks down. Only by 1 overall, because he's normally 3, but his willpower is 4, so gives him 2 attacks there. Didn't score anything off the back of that, just removed a threat. As a reminder about nightmares coming back on the table, they can be respawned as long as there's a card in the terror pile to sacrifice without any ill effect against the opponent. Well, the nightmare on top of the Batmobile activated for his own activation, because when he attacked early in the turn that was because of casting fears or whatever it's called from Scarecrow. He did his attacks, taking advantage of that Acolyte not doing anything. 2 damage when 1 would have been enough, meaning that he is off the table as a casualty. And that hit he successfully landed also scores Test Patience for 2. The other League Acolyte with a bow still isn't really getting the chance to shoot at anything because there's scoring opportunities to be had. Thanks to Talia giving him an Inspired Manipulate, he moved 10 inches, more or less, right where you can see him there. He put down a suspect marker, and then you'll notice that there is numbers on all of them because another multiple threats was put into play. The only number not covered, because they currently have 5 down, is the number 1. So if any other number gets rolled, it will score, unless some of the suspect markers get removed, of course. Dr. Fright activated, moved over to the corner over here and popped down a suspect marker, triggering her induction, so a fear card was put into the deck, and also, as a result, scoring the second debut card of the potential 4 in the Scarecrow deck. However, when drawing back up to a full hand, a fear card was drawn, which put the second pip on What Do You Fear. An enemy model is moved 4 inches directly backwards from the closest enemy model. Now, it doesn't say that it has to be the person who triggered the drawing of it or anything like that, so Talia was selected, and the closest enemy model to her was that nightmare over there, so she's backed up against the wall there, just to keep the danger out of range for a turn, ideally. Oh, one last thing, during Dr. Fright's turn, she did try and use Inspire Fear on the assassin right there to try and get a terror card out, and amongst his willpower roll was 2 1s, Snake Eyes, so he passed it. He ain't afraid of no ghost. The other assassin that hasn't activated yet came round the car here and plopped down a suspect marker. He is dangerously close to that nightmare there, but that is part of the reason why he did it. During his turn, for 2 resource points, Daughter of the Demon was played, so this is Talia's objective card, but it was played as a resource. All friendly suspects within 20 inches of Talia are considered imminent threat markers, so they're multiple threats and imminent threats then. It just means that if they want to be revealed, the Scarecrow's crew has to remove a friendly suspect marker first or cancel the action. So it's to offer a bit more protection to try and get that 3 cost or 3 VP card to score. The lanky Arkham assistant activated, moved under the scaffolding there. He did put a suspect marker down next to him after putting It's Okay to Be Afraid in play, so that if a fear card comes into hand while it's still in play, it will score. Didn't get the instant score of immediately drawing a fear card, but that's okay. It's a bit OP when that happens, and the chances increase with however many fear cards are in the objective deck. But he did then use crucial information to move the suspect marker he played back here 4 inches to make it safer. Now presumably with that move you're allowed to put it within their deployment zone, because that isn't where it was placed, so hopefully that's allowed. Cheshire moved in for the kill, dashing 12 inches into base to base with the chubby Arkham assistant, doing 6 damage in total with her poisoned katana. However, 1 effort was spent for Protect Me, so a spooky imaginary ghost Scarecrow thing jumped in front and took the hits, getting taken out in the process, but keeping her alive. The Nightmare of Demotivation tried to demotivate the assassin right next to him and managed to roll a bunch of 1s. So he did nothing, and that means there's only 1 more Nightmare left to activate for the Scarecrow crew over here, and the League still has Lady Shiva. Now, although Nightmares can come back, it is important to note it has to be a subsequent round, which I think was done incorrectly one of the 2 times they were on the table before. Has to be a subsequent round, and also it isn't just terror cards you can remove to bring them back with no effect drawn from the card. You can do the same if there's at least 1 fear card in your objective deck as well, again drawing it without doing any effects. So they can come back, but not this turn. So from where she started, Lady Shiva could not quite reach Scarecrow. It would put her within his scythe range, but she wouldn't be able to land a hit. So instead, she used exactly enough movement, more or less, to get into base to base with the lanky guy down here, losing one of her own attack dice because of the arrogant roll, and just rolling appallingly. And his 2 defense dice, he rolls 2 5s. So he countered what damage was going to get through. The strength die whiffed. 1 normal die did get through, and she had combo unarmed as well with Master Fire for +1. It was just an awful roll. Still 2 stun damage, and he's a super weak mini. He's got 4 willpower left. Like, their willpower is okay at 6. Their endurance is the bad one. But all that remains after that is the Nightmare of Anger over here. He can't put down a suspect marker because there's 1 too close. I was going to say there is no enemy within 4, but actually there is, because he was just going to remove a suspect marker. It might be more to their benefit if he attacked. Give it a second to think about it. Yeah, it made much more sense for him to attack because he has terror on his attacks by default. So terror procced for putting another card in the pile. I think there's 3 in the pile now. And on crits he had True Fear, and he got a crit. So there's another fear card in the objective deck now, along with eventually getting 2 hits through for 2 blood, leaving that Acolyte on 2 health remaining. Before he did any of that though, at the start of his activation he put a new Test Patience into play because the other one scored, so he can do that. And he did that before landing his hits, so it's actually got 1 marker on it of the 5 it needs. And that takes us to the end of Battle Round 2. So at the end of Battle Round 2, the 3 people with stun damage have all healed 1. Talia has healed her 1 blood damage because of that Pure Lazarus upgrade of hers. And there's some Scarecrow shenanigans to cover, so let's cover League of Assassins first. Does multiple threats score on a 6? It does. So that is another 3 for them. They're doing very well. So that is 3, and they're also scoring Eradicate the Order for having more suspect markers than the Scarecrow crew does, which they do because they have 6 in total, and I believe they have 5. So that they scored 6 victory points. For the Scarecrow crew, the Dawn Comes scores again, the only other instance of this card. The objective deck has many fear cards in it. Speaking of which, when that was scored, 1 was drawn. So the one that was drawn is this one. A friendly model within 4 inches of an enemy model gains +1 attack marker. That Nightmare is being given that buff, which also puts a 3rd marker on What Do You Fear, so 1 more and that'll score. And that also means that It's Okay to Be Afraid in play also scores because of shenanigans. So they gained 5, not quite the same as 6, but not too bad. Top of Battle Round 3, the penultimate round, and Scarecrow's crew have snatched back first activation. And it's worth pointing out you only see 2 Audacity markers for them on the table because 2 of their Audacity markers have been given to Nightmares that will hopefully return to the table during the turn. There's no objective cards being played as objective cards, but there is a weird one being played as a resource. A City in Fear is Scarecrow's card from prior to this crew existing, based on Arkham Knight, and if you play it as a resource, you have to do it during the raise to plan phase. You pick a model to make them do a willpower roll, and if they fail it, they suffer the scared effect, which at the top of a turn is quite nasty for them, for the minuses to their stats. This Assassin's getting picked on again. He did fail his roll this time, didn't roll Snake Eyes, and is starting the turn scared, but no other objective cards being played. Audacity wise, Lady Fritawa, Dr. Fritawa rather, and Scarecrow himself have Audacity, then two of the Nightmares do, that aren't on the table. For the League, that Assassin, Lady Shiva, Talia, I almost forgot again, and Cheshire all have their Audacity markers, and that covers it. Let's see what happens. Well, to get the round started, the Fear Beast decided it was time to return, popping off of the back of the suspect marker that Scarecrow was partially obscuring by standing on, which in turn got moved over to the next to them there. And then we did a series of things. There's actually no loss to bring him back as long as he lands a hit, because his hits do fear and terror, or true fear and terror, just to be clear. So he reappeared with Audacity. He inspired fear, or tried to, and would you believe it, that League Acolyte in his willpower roll had 2 1s again. I mean, it's a different character, it was the Hass I've seen before, but 2 attempts at Inspire Fear beaten by Snake Eyes. It's unbelievable. He did then just do that as part of his attack, so Terror procced because he got 2 hits through, so the Terror card that was expended to respawn him was replaced by a different one. And that damage is enough that that Acolyte is out of there. For the Fear card going into his deck, because True Fear is on his attacks, and the third of 4, I think, Boo cards play, at which point a Fear card was drawn, and the Nightmare of Anger is going to get this one. It's the same kind of +1 damage marker. And then a Fear card was drawn. After that, an enemy model is moved directly 4 inches backwards from the closest enemy model. That's why Cheshire has been pushed back to try and help out the Arkham Assistant there. And that also fully procced, if I just lean over here, What Do You Fear? When Fear cards are returned to the Fear pile for 3. So big score there. Cheshire moved back in contact with the stout Arkham Assistant, trying to stay out of range. Well, does Scarecrow have range 2? Because that's going to be within range 2 actually. He's got range 1 on his scythe, so that's just out of a 1 inch, so she's safe from him. Well, unless he moves, of course. But she took out her double blood poisoned katana again. This time did not pass off wounds. The attack roll was not great, only the strength I got through. It was kind of embarrassing. It's 2 blood and poison though, and they did score a card off of that. They scored the neutral card. I'm feeling weird for inflicting poison. So away from what was going on over there, Scarecrow activated and moved 12 inches. A little bit awkward fitting him in there. The car door is dangerously over the base, but he did fit. And he has 1 inch on his scythe anyway, so technically it could be a little bit further back. But he engaged in combat with the scared Assassin. They both efforted 3 times each, and he went to town with the scythe, actually only getting 2 hits through, which would be 4 blood. But he got a crit, which means his bleed 2, procs, for a total of 6, removing the scared Assassin from the table. During his turn, and independent of that, another What Do You Fear was put into play that will count up as Fear cards are returned to the Fear pile. Didn't then draw a Fear card for the record. And that attack also inflicted Terror to deny the League another objective card of theirs. It isn't just Scarecrow's crew denying activations. Lady Shiva activated, eventually ending up over there in base to base with Scarecrow, but not before sending off the Arkham Assistant over here. You'll notice that it's blood damage, not stun. That's because her personal card was played as a resource, which means she does blood damage instead of stun markers this activation. So she obliterated his soul with 3 successful hits for 6 blood, and he had 4 endurance. So he is off the table. Didn't score anything on it, just denied an activation, and obviously breathing down Scarecrow's neck to try and get him next turn. And there's actually not many activations left for the League. The Assassin without Audacity near Talia activated, getting a free manipulate from her inspiration range, which he used to put down a suspect marker just outside of 4 of the one he had previously been ordered to put down, right there, and scoring, I think, the final, actually no, maybe it's the second, I think the third one might be in the terror pile, under their noses for placing it within 4 inches of Dr. Fritawa. The Nightmare next to Scarecrow there activated and attacked Lady Shiva because she was within range. Devastating, so rolling 2 dice. Not surprisingly, given that she's also a high willpower model, she blocked all the normal hits, but the strength die, one of the strength dice, did get through for just one little itty bitty stun damage, but more importantly, poisoned her, because he does poison. So, poison 1 on Lady Shiva. He also put into play New Compound, which is a bit late in the game to be getting the first of these. Dr. Fritawa's card. Place 1 marker on it every time a card is added to the terror pile. When it has 5 it scores. It would have scored, I think, on the last time one was added. When drawing a card though, a fear card got drawn, so test patience has gone up by 1, and so has what do you fear for landing a hit and fear card getting returned to the pile. Enemy model with a objective with a audacity marker chosen by the opponent suffers 2 stun. Doesn't say it has to be spent or unspent, so Talia herself was selected and has 2 stun damage on her. So we're already on the final activation for the League of Assassins. It was Talia herself, and she went after the nightmare she could reach. Oh, forgot to put the damage down. She killed it 6 ways to Sunday. Again, she's such high willpower. She's getting 4 dice to attack a 2 health model. So really just rolling the strength I would have done. But either way, that nightmare is out of there. Didn't score anything on the back of that though, but did remove a potential thing for Scarecrow to run next and hide. Dr. Fright / Dr. Fritawa activated did inspire fear on the assassin and actually got him to fail it a little bit. So he is scared. She then moved next to Lady Shiva, put down a suspect marker and met the criteria for deepest fears. Place a suspect within 4 inches of an enemy model suffering an effect. She's poisoned, so that has scored for 2. The other nightmare with Audacity decided to finally spawn in, and the suspect marker he spawned off of was moved over there. He attacked with his 4-inch range against the assassin, getting the 2 strength dice through, one of which was a crit to activate both terror and fear. So there's another fear card in the objective deck, and another card stolen from the League of Assassins going into the terror pile, which also puts the first point on New Compound. I don't think that's going to tick up for the end of the game personally, but that is another point. He has 4 health remaining, and now it's just over to the pudgy Arkham Assistant to end off the penultimate turn. And rather than try to run away, the Arkham Assistant one turned around. She's got a couple of weapons to choose from. She picked the electroshock treatment because it's mechanical and devastating, so she was rolling 2 strength dice on 3 pluses, which make up for the fact she's attack 2 and strength 6 plus. So the 2 strength dice got through, nothing else did. So Cheshire took 2 stun damage. And did that do anything else? It would have done on a crit, it would have done more stun damage. It has blunt 2 on it, but she didn't actually get any crits there. So that takes us to the scoring. So at the end of battle round 3, even though a lot of them are dead, the League are scoring big. There's still a few cards in play for Scarecrow's crew, but they're not scoring anything in this end phase. Eradicate the Order, another one of those, is scoring for the League because they do have more suspect markers than Scarecrow's crew. And they placed at least 1 and none of theirs was removed. So Do Not Deviate from the Plan has scored for 2 for the criteria I just said. So let's go into the final round to see how this wraps up. Dawn of the final day, top of battle round 4, and Scarecrow's crew have retained first activation, so they got it 3 out of the 4 times. They're not playing any cards. From the Shadows though is playing for the League, and they're playing that on the poultry Arkham Assistant over there that's been getting a bit beaten up. Independent of that, when Scarecrow's crew discarded a card between turns, they actually drew a fear card, so that's ticked up 1 more on what you fear or test patience, whichever one it is, and the suspect marker has been moved. But they're not playing any other cards. Audacity wise, the 4 survivors for the League all have Audacity. For Scarecrow's crew is Dr. Fright, Scarecrow, the Fear Beast, and one of the nightmares that isn't on the table. Oh sorry, there was a change in strategy. This nightmare already on the table was given the Audacity instead. Scarecrow got the final round started, trying to inspire fear on Lady Shiva. Had to give it a shot, but no. Even with the -1 from being near a nightmare, she passed her test entirely. So he ran along here, or galloped I guess, because he is a horseback, or on horseback. Cracked out his scythe again into the assassin, got 2 hits through in total for 4 blood. He had 2 blood on him already, 6 health. So that is just an activation denied. Didn't score anything on it though. I think Scarecrow, with what they have in play and left in their hand, it's going to actually be a struggle for them to score anything, especially because there's so few enemies on the table now. Very quick activation for the League just to try and secure that from the Shadows. Just rolled the strength die for Cheshire here because if it got through for 2 blood, they only have 4 health and she has 2 on her already. It did. So that is a kill there, which does score the card. If they're getting dangerously close to the point where if they want to score more cards, they're going to have to take something out of the terror deck. But their strategy of utterly ignoring the cards that are stuck in there seems to have worked out in the long run. Further disaster for Scarecrow's crew as the Fear Beast activated and tried to attack Talia, was just wanting to land a single hit just to help proc test patients, and whiffed. Well, rather, she defended against it because she's got really good willpower. Well, that ended up costing him. Talia activated, unable to reach Scarecrow, and it not really being in their best interest to take him out because it's not like they have an Assassinate the Leader card. She went after the Fear Beast, got him for 6, which is enough that he's dead. Independent of removing him from the table once more, a multiple threats was put into play. Every number is covered with 2 to spare. I think they've got all 8 suspect markers down. So that's in play and very likely to score. And Mr. Giant Scary not invisible. What's the word I'm looking for? Intangible. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Tree is once again gone. Wow, it is all gone pear-shaped for Scarecrow's crew. The Nightmare here activated, just wanted to land a hit. Just wanted to land one little hit for 1 damage against Lady Shiva. She blocked the normal attack dice, but the 2 strength dice he was rolling? Yeah, so that's not going through. Which basically means their game is over because Lady Shiva can just run away. That means she won't get to go punch Scarecrow, but it just denies them the ability to score anything. We'll give it a quick think and then come back. Yeah, it's a little bit anticlimactic and it leaves Scarecrow on his feet, but if Lady Shiva runs all the way down here, they're not going to have any chance to proc test patients, they're not going to have any chance to get new compound or what do you fear, and their hand is filled with wanting to put suspect markers next to her, so she's hiding amongst suspect markers. Can't do anything with that as well. Essentially ending their game. I think Dr. Fright might be able to do one thing, but actually, yeah, because hang on, how many suspect markers do they have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over there. So yes, they could do this. All she would need to do is move over here somewhere, like just 4 out of 4 of that one. Put down a suspect marker after playing the final It's Okay to Be Afraid, but that only matters if the next card drawn back to get them to 4 in hand from the deck is a fear card, because the game's over. They're not going to do anything else to their deck, so we're just going to do this live. Is it a fear card from the top of their deck? Let's see. It actually is. Okay, well, they managed to scrape by 3 more points before reaching the end of the game. So even though one nightmare, or actually all the dead nightmares that didn't die this turn, could come back, they're not able to really spawn in a position where they can attack anyone besides Lady Shiva, and she's got really good willpower, and even if they both landed their hits, that still would not proc the objective card score. So that is going to take us to the closing of the game because the league has no activations left. They definitely score multiple threats no matter what rolls because they've got all 6 numbers covered, so sure. So they've also, at the last minute, also scored 3. Scarecrow has usually been running away with it because they are a very powerful crew, but I think the league just got the right stuff at the right time there. Let's go find out. So both sides scored a lot of cards worth 3 points. Let's see, to get that out of the way, who actually took it. Starting with Scarecrow's crew, so that is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Very respectable score, but I think the league have this. So 26 plays. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. So 31, very, very healthy score, plays 26. Scarecrow's crew did get a little bit unlucky. Actually, I'm curious, of their deck, how many were fear cards? Because there has to be a bunch in there, because a bunch just weren't getting drawn. Let's see. Oh, yeah, well, shuffling do be like that somehow. So sometimes. So there's 3 right at the bottom of the deck, and there's another one there, and there's another one there. So there was actually only 3 cards left in their objective deck, but 4 fear cards that just happened to be buried deep enough they weren't getting drawn. If those had been drawn, I would have given them, what, 3 more points? Still wouldn't have been enough to win, so they lost fair and square, but it could have been a little bit closer. Getting one of Dr. Fright's cards out early absolutely would have helped. Just happened to draw them late. They maybe should have mulliganed. Also, it is worth mentioning, totally forgot that the new Scarecrow, as in the one with the horse on the table, forgot that if you include his objective card, it's played from the beginning of the game. Because that was forgotten, I couldn't retcon it. So that might have made all the difference of 3. That plus a Dr. Fright card coming out earlier would have given them 5. So they still would have lost by 1. So actually, it doesn't really matter. But either way, that was a good one. Finally, someone stood up to Scarecrow's crew and showed that they ain't afraid of no ghost. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Please do remember to show your support, and if you would like to go above and beyond to support what we do here, please consider pressing the thanks button or becoming a channel member. There is some exclusive channel member only videos. And yeah, thank you. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Ta for now.